Alrighty, it's time to rank another soundtrack, and this time I'm going to be doing Tecmo Super Bowl on the NES. I usually rank stage themes on these soundtrack rankings, and although there are no, levels or stages in Tecmo Super Bowl, there are 8 different songs for gameplay. 2 for preseason, 2 for regular season, 2 for playoffs, and 2 for Pro Bowl, depending on which team has the ball. So I've decided to rank these 8 and forego other choices like the intro, the injury music, when a player returns from injury, team wins the division, when the regular season ends, etc., etc. There's a lot of songs, but they're not really written the same way. They're much shorter loops most of the time. So to do apples to apples and oranges to oranges like I normally do, I'm just doing the 8 gameplay songs. And just for the sake of reference, I'll be referring to the games as Player 1 or Player 2 to reference when the song plays, when that player has the ball on offense. I will preface this like I always do with the statement that this list is just strictly my opinion. It's fine to have a completely different opinion. If yours is the opposite, feel free to leave comments and express your opinion. I'm more than happy to have discussion and debate, just as long as you respect my opinion and everybody else's who may also be letting their opinions known. So without any further ado, let's get on with the list. Number 8, Pro Bowl Player 1. This has a cool intro, and then it goes into this very up-tempo, intense riff. It sounds like an 8-measure loop that goes back to the beginning, but then you'll notice that the last 2 measures are actually a bit different the second time around. Like I said, it's very intense, but it doesn't change much. I know it's supposed to be a relatively short loop because it's going to reset between plays, but even in the confines of the 20 seconds that the loop lasts, it stays pretty much in the same groove. And there are other songs on the soundtrack that have more than one section, even with the short loops. Number 7, Regular Season Player 2. And this is an example of a song with multiple sections. I've played season games more often than any other, so maybe I've heard this too much, and kind of by default rank it a little lower. The first section is a little too cheerful, but it does go into a pretty cool second section, and it at least adds some variety. All the gameplay songs are quite energetic, so this one has a pretty good dynamic going. Number 6, Playoffs Player 1. I'd say this kinda, sorta has the same problem as Pro Bowl Player 1 with the lack of sections, but that's only because the intro is a couple measures long. It feels more like a whole verse on its own. So even though it's never heard from again, the loop shouldn't come back more than a couple of times. So once the play is over, you're gonna hear it again. And I do love the transition back into the main loop with that little hiccup delay. I love weird little quirky things like that. Number 5, Preseason Player 1. Both sections are quite different from each other, and yet they flow back and forth into each other nicely. The riffs are simple, but there are some cool licks at the end of each measure of the main verse. Then the refrain is decent, but it does have a slide at the end that sounds like a screeching guitar as it transitions back into the verse. Cool stuff. Number 4, Regular Season Player 1. This one also has 2 distinct sections. The lead riffs are well done, very busy, and I like those little start and stops. I kind of feel similar to this the way I feel about Season Player 2, because I play the season game more than anything, so I hear it a lot, and you know how that goes. Not that I'm tired of the song or anything, but after a lot of listens of any song, the tape does wear thin a bit. Still, it wasn't enough to keep this out of the top 4. Number 3, Preseason Player 2. This one's got a thundering rhythm section. The bass is a rapid pulse, while the lead is more deliberately paced. I always say I like that kind of contrast. The riffs are simple, and they do repeat within their respective sections, but they're still really catchy. And I love the false ending right before it goes back into the main verse. Number 2, Pro Bowl Player 2. This one goes from 0 to 60, and it's pure chaos the whole way. Drums are almost to the point of blast beating, and the lead is basically playing a solo the whole time. But it's a melodic solo, it's not just noodling. While there isn't much variety in terms of sections, there are also no repeated riffs during the loop, so it doesn't get repetitive while at the same time maintains that fast pace. And number 1, Playoffs Player 2. This is another 0 to 60 fast-paced, energetic ride. The thing I like particularly about this one, though, is that they have two very different tones for the lead instrument that alternate. It goes back and forth between this muddy, distorted tone to a clean, high-end tone. It goes back and forth so seamlessly, and I think it's what makes the song. I mean, the song is great on its own, but those shifts in tone are just the icing on the cake. The ending kind of throws me off, though. It always sounds like it's about to go into a whole new section, because it's this one riff that sounds like it's building something up, but then it just fires right back to the main verse. You could argue that the end acts as a new beginning, or a new intro, I guess, but I don't really think it sounds like that. I'm always okay with surprises, though. I don't like predictability, so I'm not gonna say that I have any kind of problem with this. And even if I did, it obviously wasn't enough of a detriment to hold it back in my rankings. So that does it for this list. Here is a recap. Number 8, Pro Bowl Player 1. Number 7, Regular Season Player 2. Number 6, Playoffs Player 1. Number 5, Preseason Player 1. Number 4, Regular Season Player 1. Number 3, Preseason Player 2. Number 2, Pro Bowl Player 2. And number 1, Playoffs Player 2. So that's it for this list. What is your opinion, your thoughts? Feel free to leave them in the comments. Let me know what you agree or disagree with, or what your ranking is. And that'll do it for this edition. I'll see you next time.